So I had a friend reach out to me and he asked me a question. He was like, Toby, how do you use data? How do you use channel data, YouTube analytics, to improve your videos and to just make better videos in general? Because he asked me that question, I was like, ooh, maybe a lot of people will find this interesting. So today I kind of want to go over the 5 ways I use data to make better videos. So we're going to go through these 5 things. And these 5 are growing videos, similar videos, creating topics, formats, and the retention chart. And we're going to go through all 3. And this is from my experience. There's obviously, I am by no means an expert when it comes to YouTube data, but I just want to share the 5 ways that I've used data that I found very helpful and that any beginner can take and use. Because the issue with a lot of data, with data just in general, is that a lot of times data will give you what you're looking for. So if you look at the YouTube data and you come in with specific biases, when you look at the data will a lot of times lean into your bias and you'll just find what you're looking for versus actually noticing the pattern that is in there, right? Because there's a lot of variables when it comes to data, of removing and introducing variables, and we'll go over that. So let's start with the basic data principles, right? We have CTR and AVD. These are the most common talked about ones, CTR being click-through rate, so how many people, the percentage of people that click on your video, and AVD being average view duration, which is the amount of time people watched your video. These metrics are useless without context, and typically that context looks like video length, format buckets, number of impressions, number of views, but you can't really use these metrics without adding in this sort of context. And this is where data gets really hard because, like I said, when you're trying to interpret data, there's a lot of variables that can come in. Like if you're comparing 2 videos, but one video is 10 minutes and the other is an hour, that's a data point. That's a variable that you can't control, right? So maybe that longer period of time, that video being longer, is a reason why it did better versus just the specific CTR data points you're looking at, right? So that's why data is really confusing and really hard to interpret, and why I tell people to be very careful when they're messing with data. So how do you even get these numbers? I'm gonna go through the principles of how you get average view duration and how you get click-through rate, and why I think you shouldn't really look at them in the first place. Okay, so you have video 1, where YouTube pushes it to an audience of 1 million people. And so through that audience, 10% of those people click, and on average, a person watches 6 minutes of that 10-minute video. Right? And then YouTube is like, okay, it did pretty well. We're going to push it to a second audience of people. And then with a second audience of people, before it pushes it to all 1 million people in that second audience, it pushes it to a test group of, let's say, 50K people, right? And of that test group, only 2% of people click. And so YouTube is like, ooh, people really didn't like that. We're going to stop pushing this video. And so what ends up happening is this video would get 101,000 views, and the CTR would be 9.9%, and the AVD would be 5 minutes and 96, sorry. Now, if we look at a second video, where in this second video, the same thing happened. You pushed it to 1 million people, it got 10% CTR, 6-minute AVD per person, and then if you push it to the test group, it does really well. It gets 6% CTR and 4-minute AVD. And so YouTube decides, okay, we're gonna push it to all 1 million of that second test group, right? So then this video gets more views. It gets 160,000 views. Compared to before, it had only 101,000 views, right? But look at that. The CTR and AVD went down. So now the CTR is 8.4 and the AVD is 5.2. If we compare that before, it was higher when it had less views. So what does that mean? And so see, that's the sort of trap you get with CTR and AVD, is that a lot of times there's I think it's called a reverse correlation, where the more you get pushed out, the more the worse the metrics get. So when people are looking at AVD and CTR in terms of like, we need to improve these metrics, sometimes it can be very misleading because by getting more views, your metrics are getting worse. And so you're left with a video that, a lot of times in scenario 1, you're left with a video that didn't do very well, and the CTR is very high, and the AVD is very high, and you're like, what the fuck? Why didn't my video get pushed out? The metrics were good. And you don't see the sort of nuance of, when it did get pushed out to that test group, it did horrible, so YouTube stopped pushing it. And that's sort of the principal ways of how I look at it, right? And we can go into this. I think there's an interesting phenomenon here with metric decay is what I call it, where like a lot of videos, the sort of metrics, the CTR and AVD, they decay as your video gets pushed more and more. And that's kind of the reasoning behind it, right? As your kind of video gets pushed to broader audiences, there's less people that could find it interesting. And because of that, they have sort of less of a connection or interest in that topic and the niche and the hobby, whatever it is, right? And so because of that, they're less likely to click. So if the more views your video gets, the more people it gets pushed out to, and the more people see it that aren't really interested in that topic, right? But yeah, so that's sort of the principles. But this is exactly what I don't want you to get into, is like the CTR and AVD and all these like specific data points. So let's go through the 5 very simple charts that you can use to improve your videos. So number 1 is videos growing your audience. So this is just a basic chart in your YouTube analytics, right? But so many people don't use this very well, right? You look at this and it shows you the videos that are doing the best on your channel, the videos that are physically building your audience, right? And so over here, we have this one high. New viewers are returning. We have high. This is a really good video. So it's like, why don't we double down on that video? A lot of people, they make a good video. It does really well. And then they're scared to make it again. They're like, oh, I've already made it. I can't do it again. Newsflash, you can probably do that video 10 more times over 2 years and people wouldn't care. Maybe you'll get 1 or 2 comments, but most of the time you can do a video a lot. You can repeat it. I mean, just look at any massive competitive YouTube market, like the YouTube Kids, the content for kids, like the Stoke Twins, right? You know how many videos have been made on secret rooms? Hundreds of thousands. How many of them have gotten tens of millions of views? A ton. So it's like you can make multiple videos on the same topic. And a lot of times just doubling down on your highest performing videos is one of the best ways to get views quick. Next up, you have chart number 2, which is channels your audience watch. Now, this one is an extremely underrated one because YouTube is literally telling you, yo, this is your audience. Your audience loves these videos from these other channels. So what you can do as a smart YouTuber is you can go and you can become a viewer of those audiences. You can binge all of their content. And when you do that, I recommend you take notes. Take notes on what they do really well. You can compare your videos to their videos and really take notes on why their editing is better, why their videos got more views, why they got less views, what mistakes they made, what things they did amazing in their videos. And with all those notes and all those improvements of content that your audience physically watches, you can use that to improve your own videos. And so that, I think, is an extremely underrated way to make better videos and use the data to make better videos, right? Next, we have this. Now we're going to get more into like specific data things, right? But this is chart number 3, and it is finding topics that do well, right? So there's this sort of common principles like, okay, so if you upload once a day, so you upload 7 times in a week, every day of the month, right? Every day of the week, whatever. You upload every day. So if every day you uploaded a different topic, so let's say you were in, for me, we did anime, but every day you do a different topic or a different anime, right? A different book, a different movie, whatever it is, right? You do a different topic. What you can do is you can then go and find the average views that those videos get. So for here, I did this for my channel, and you can see that One Piece videos about the topic, about the anime One Piece, on average got 2 million views, while videos that were about broad anime, so just like top 10 craziest anime moments, just broad, those videos did the worst. They got about 700K views on average per video. So what we can do is if we upload every day, by just cutting out this bucket of videos that underperform, we can literally double the views we get on that video every day. So we can improve the views of that video by almost double. So instead of doing broad, we completely cut out that bucket. We never do videos on broad anime ever again on our channel. And instead, we just do a second video every week on One Piece that does really well. And boom, just like that, you can use the data to improve and get more views. And so this is a really good way of, like I said, using the data. And I recommend anyone do this. Just go and find the common topics you do on your channel and then find the average views per video. Try to get multiple data points. Data is weaker the less points you have. So if you have a bucket where you've only done like 2 videos on that topic in your channel, it's not going to be as strong as the data from a topic where you did 20 videos on like a specific topic, right? So keep that in mind. But like I said, if you can find the topics that are horrible and cut those out and then really hyper focus on the ones that do really well, you can improve your views on your channel. So the next one is chart 4, and it is average views per format. Now this is another really interesting one I like. And this is kind of finding the formats of content you do. So let me kind of explain the difference between the topic, the buckets, and the formats, right? A topic is a specific thing you're talking about in the video. So whether it is, I'm talking about Marvel, I'm talking about Disney characters, I'm talking about, eating food, whatever it is, right? That's a topic. Now a bucket is doing that topic multiple times. So if you have a topic where you did like, what happens if I do X, Y, and Z? And that's your bucket. You can do a ton of those and just fill in that blank with the words, right? In a format is similar to the bucket. It's like the bucket is what you're playing off of in the format, but the format is the type of content you do. So for my anime channel, we would do 3 types of formats. We would do listicle videos, which is like 20 moments and blah, blah, blah. It's like 20. It's a high volume of points, right? The next one was every. So this is like explaining every single data point in a thing. So every death in movie, in universe explained, right? And then we'd have what if, which is a hypothetical scenario. So those are the 3 buckets we would have on our channel. And what you can notice is that here, the what if bucket did the best. It got almost 2 million views on average per video versus the every format only got about 1.5. So by just removing the every X format and instead doing more videos on a what if format, you can average 500,000 more views on those videos than if you did the every X. So this is a really interesting chart to find your best and worst performing formats. And like the topics one, kind of remove the ones that don't do as well and double down on the ones that do really well. Now finally, we have probably the most useful but the hardest to use chart and that is the retention chart, right? And this is a thing that shows you exactly where in your video people leave. It shows you the best moments, the sort of flats are when people stay, the drops are when people leave, and you can really use this to break down how to improve your video specifically. So how you use the retention chart is this. You see a drop, like for example, this little drop right after the intro, and you apply the scientific method, right? So you go, what caused that drop? Let me go to this section in the video and watch it 5 or 6 times and try and guess, come up with a hypothesis of what caused that drop. And then you want to try to strengthen that hypothesis by either finding more data points, so you go and watch more of your videos, and if you notice that same pattern, and then you're like, oh, every time I, ask people to subscribe, it drops like that, right? So if you notice that in every single video where you ask people to subscribe in the intro, you have a drop there, then you can be like, okay, let's just remove that. And now we improve the retention, we improve the video. And so that is an extremely useful way to use retention. But once again, you need to apply the scientific method, right? You need to see the drop, go watch the video, come up with a hypothesis of why that drop happened, and then either confirm or deny that hypothesis. And so here I have more on these are also 2 amazing charts too, which is where you can see where new viewers versus casual versus regular viewers leave. So there's a retention chart with new, casual, or regular viewers. And you also have this chart, which is when people stopped watching and started watching, which is extremely useful for seeing specific dips where like, 5,000 people left here at this moment when I said this specific thing or did this specific action. Those are the charts I find the most useful. And that's kind of a beginner-friendly guide on like how to use data. If you want more expertise on data and you want help with ideation, we offer consulting, we offer help with ideation, we help with data, we help with all this stuff. If you're a YouTuber with over 100K subs and making over 20K a month, feel free to hit me up. I'll leave some links in the descriptions. I think we can help you. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. Peace.